Well, good evening. You know, Peter leading worship and actually singing some of the songs that you taught us in Mexico. That's pretty cool. Thanks. That's great to have you back. Yeah, 40 years. Pretty remarkable. I just have a few brief words to say to you, and the first I want to say to you is thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the 11-year history of this university. Thank you for weaving into the DNA of Azusa Pacific the crazy idea that following a woman with her hair on fire to the dirt of Mexico. No, I mean, seriously, I mean, you've experienced just like I have. It seems that no matter where you go in this nation, increasingly for me in this world, I run into people who've been to Mexico with Carolyn and the IOM team. It's pretty remarkable, the life stories, what people have learned because of their journeys to Mexico. I was sitting in my chair over here thinking of Gary Vanderet. Gary, who, after I was thinking of him, came up, must have been an angel, because Gary doesn't do that. But it was, and Gary's here tonight. And I remember my first year of working with Gary Vanderet, I was supposed to learn how to be one of the deans of the camps. Gary Vanderet, who, he cut his teeth chopping down youth pastors. I mean, that's kind of what he does for a living. And I was told that if I was to be a dean as good as Gary, I would have to get the look. And because Gary's got a funny eye, and when he focuses that funny eye, I mean, it will just cut through you like a laser. And so the problem is that typically the dean has to go out about midnight to calm down, quiet down the youth pastors' tents that are over the top, right? Well, it's dark at midnight. How do people see Gary's eye when it is so dark? But I would follow him around, and sure enough, there'd be a tent. It's absolutely dark, and it is way too noisy, and Gary sticks his head in that tent, and somehow his eye comes alive. And he says, if it isn't quiet in here? I don't think I have your attention. If it isn't, anyway, so then he would lead him across the altar of obedience, and we would not have to come back to that tent. My years as a dean of students, I couldn't get it. But tonight, I would just encourage you. I don't know, I mean, he's a pretty old man now. And I would encourage you before the evening is over to find Gary Vanderet and ask him to teach you how to do the eye. It will multiply your ministry. So here's the deal. This is a huge celebration. I mean, this 40 years of walking in obedience, 40 years of trusting that God's hand of protection. This year, I can remember sitting in a cabinet meeting. Matt Browning came in, and Terry Franson and 7 other people were in that room. It had just gone from a watch list to a warning because of the border towns in Texas. And we were getting phone calls, and our attorney sat at the table, and he said, I recommend that we do not go. The exposure to the university is more than we can bear. There's not enough insurance in Mexico to handle what might happen. And somebody around the table said, but I thought we took risks. Yeah, that's from following a woman with her hair on fire for 40 years. Look, I don't mean to make light of that. It really, I mean, in today's world, the number one rule all of us deal with is everybody comes back whole. I mean, that's why we do what we do. But the fact is that we believe that there is a day when human history ends and eternity begins. We believe that the church is what God is using to redeem a lost world. And we believe a youth pastor with a group of high school or junior high kids sitting in the dirt of Mexico can come back and infect their church. And we believe that we have things to learn from a remarkably beautiful, gracious, and hospitable culture that has invited us for so many years. And mostly we learned that from you, from Eduardo in the kitchen, from Mike Tabner fixing broken vans. Mostly we learned that from the acts of service and the cherry on the top, you know, Ron and Ridge and Carolyn in chapel. I mean, that was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see students. I was listening to Ron around the table. It was almost as if you had transported him back 30 years. Ridge said, so how was this last week in Mexico? And Ron said, oh man, it was the best ever. And you know what? He meant it. He said, you can't believe the high school students these days. Man, they just are on fire. Okay, so thanks. Yay, God, for 40 years. Yay, God, for tonight. Thanks for being here. Blessings.